Okay, great. And thank you all for joining us. So I'm just going to share the screen for the AWS partnership that we have so that it will be captured because they're the ones actually powering and sponsoring the current programs. Um, and it's definitely amazing to actually have an event with Aashni, who is also a former software developer of Square, Microsoft, and Amazon. Quite an amazing buyer, but we'll actually delve into it later after we've shared the Amazon video. So I'm just going to remove my headphones because that's how it works, and just share screen. Um, sure. Okay, so. Okay, so AWS.
Reason why for the last 13 years, startups overwhelmingly prefer to build on top of AWS. We have the largest number of services, making it easy for you to take on some of the biggest challenges with the smallest teams. We also have partnerships with the top VCs, accelerators, and incubators around the world. It's easier to secure your next round funding. I'm a solution architect with the AWS Xstart program. What we do is we work with startups in the education sector and we help them with their services on AWS.
So We Power Tech is AWS's diversity and inclusion outreach program. The program is really twofold. One is to increase the number of underrepresented technologists within the industry, and the second is to provide a platform seen and heard.
If you're wondering how the AWS evangelism team might be able to help your startup, there are many ways. We're technically credible across our entire catalog of products, so we can help you figure out which services might be able to meaningfully impact your business. We also want to help tell your story. So if you're building something cool, we want to know about it and help spread that message to the world. So you might end up on stage at an event like AWS Summit. If you're a startup, you should also definitely check out the AWS Lofts. These are event spaces that are free to anyone with an AWS account. You can treat them like co-working spaces, but the awesome thing about them is that we also have people like technical experts like myself, solutions architects that come and give hands-on technical workshops and sessions to help you learn how to more effectively utilize the AWS products and platforms that you're already building on top of.
We are a dedicated team of people that love startups, that we just want to come and help you with whatever we can, whether it be technical or business focused. We are here to help guide you, make sure that you do have a say in what's going on. We do get your feedback. We do bring that feedback to the service teams. That is what we're here for.
Okay, now back to the event. So that was the AWS partnership that we have. So if we don't do it, so we need to put in the AWS sponsorship package video. But so I'm just going to go straight. Aashni, thank you so much for taking the time to actually be here with us despite the busy schedule and doing all the Amazon stuff. So maybe just for the benefit of the people that have actually joined, maybe you can just intro yourself and tell us who is Aashni Shah, and basically tell us more about what you do.
Yeah, sure. So hey everyone, I may repeat some stuff I already mentioned on the other call, so apology. I was born in Kenya and my family is all still here. So while I spend half my time in Canada, Kenya and African countries, or like trying to support African countries with tech, has always been very near and dear to my heart. I have been a software engineer at a few different tech companies, most recently Square, but I have previously worked at Microsoft and Amazon as well. And I decided to go down the founder journey of launching a couple of my own things right now. So just a quick overview of what those are. For the last 4 years, I've been running a nonprofit called Elixir Labs. We partner with other nonprofits around the world and basically help you or help those nonprofits that we partner with to build technical solutions for them. And then more recently, I launched Hype Docs a couple of months ago, which is an accountability tracking tool for you to track your personal achievements and beat imposter syndrome. And what I'm currently working on, and I'm really, really excited about, is a tool called Taonga. And Taonga is all about your privacy as an individual, especially because more and more apps require you to upload or send them your ID or your driving license for ID verification. But there's no real guarantee around the safety and security of your personal documents, like your ID or passport. And so those are just some of the different things that I'm working on. And I will drop the link into the chat for any of them if you're interested in checking them out. But I will turn it back to you in the meantime, Modou.
Okay, awesome. That's actually quite amazing. I mean, yesterday I was actually having, a look at, some of the, stuff that you have done, and it's quite amazing, man. Building all these platforms, really just fascinating, especially for someone like you that's actually, have the opportunity to also do some great stuff in Canada as well. I guess you were also among the top 50, awardees as well in Canada for the STEM award, which was, congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Also from the Silicon Savannah country, right, Kenya, where there's a whole lot of entrepreneurial ecosystem, a lot of activities that are actually being done there. I mean, it's such an amazing stuff. So I'm just going to take you back before we delve more into the event, which is mainly as an effect of least developed countries obviously being affected in regards to not only COVID but crisis situations, right? So when you talk about LDCs, least developed countries, for those that don't know, it is mainly for countries that actually, their economies are not as strong, and obviously Gambia is one of them, and some other countries in sub-Saharan Africa who are also affected. And we thought that it's important for with the kind of personality that you are in terms of your experience to really give us an insight about what does it mean currently for what you're building for African. I mean, I know that with Tonga, obviously you're building a lot of stuff for NGOs in Africa, to try to help them to rebuild. So it would be a great thing for us to have an insight about what exactly you're currently doing right now, like to really help African entrepreneurs that are coming from really these marginalized countries, with less support.
Yeah. So I think COVID has, the really interesting thing about COVID is it has affected the entire world. Pretty much no one has been unaffected by COVID, because whether or not you personally caught it, the economy around you has definitely been affected by it. And it's the thing I find really fascinating about it is it's not just you as an individual have to now work from home. If you look at the effects in, for example, there are millions of people who were let go from their jobs because their jobs are just not an option right now when you're in quarantine mode. And then an extension of that is, do teachers still teach in schools, right? Do you go back and work from an office, or do you stay working from home? And it's really just shaken up every single industry. And that's also happening in African countries as well. And I think the thing that's really exciting about this is it's opening up opportunities for us to look at what does and doesn't work and how we can make those opportunities better. So one of the things that I've been doing, which is not quite building like a tech company per se, but when COVID first started, about I think in April, I did the first one. I've been hosting virtual quiz night fundraisers. And what that means is I will host a Zoom call with I think 20 to 100 people, depending on how active that session was. Each person paid $25, and all of that money that I collect went into buying food supplies, which we did in some areas in Kenya. And technology has helped unlock that, because before, like the people who participated in this were from, I think, 5 different countries. And without these technological tools that we have access to today, we don't have that ability. And so I think, and Modou, feel free to like jump in and ask me any direct, like more specific questions, but I think the really exciting thing for us right now is, as Africans, we have the ability to identify things that are going well in other countries. So these are tools, services, products, and then we have the skill sets to launch our own African flavor of them.
Mhm.
And I wrote a newsletter about this a couple of months ago on Shopify. Shopify is an incredible company.
Right.
Where it has basically unlocked middle class and lower class people in North America and other countries around the world to set up their own store and start generating their own income. Unfortunately, at least in Kenya, it doesn't work very well, because if you look at the cost of running a Shopify store,
Mhm.
it's I think on the least amount was like $25 or something like that. And that's just for a very basic account. If you want to start doing anything additional, it becomes even more expensive. And then on top of that, there's no way to actually make payments using Shopify's platform as an African country. You have to get third parties integrated, and those aren't the most reliable.
Actually, I'm gonna, yes, I'm sorry to cut you off there. I'm actually, that's actually something that has been one of the talk of the town. So we have someone here, Babukar Koli, who's been working with me in terms of, in terms of really, sorry, just a second. Hello? Yeah. So basically we have, so if you can mute your mics, that would really be awesome, because we actually migrated from the initial link to Zoom. So we'll be having quite some technical adjustments. But I mean, I was just trying to reference on something that you've mentioned on, Shopify is an actually payment system. That has actually been one of the most important stuff for Gambia right now. I would actually say that integrating payment solutions for businesses, for those that actually want to sell outside of Gambia, has been a major challenge. And you've worked for Amazon, right? And you've also worked for Square and all these giants, and you pretty much understand how their payment solutions work. I mean, at some point I was really thinking of, is it really an issue of bringing Amazon and all these giants, like in Africa, to really explain to them what they need to do, or like what is the myth about this thing that we need to do? Because I mean, in as much as you think there are a whole lot of opportunities, there are a whole lot of challenges, because entrepreneurs can get closer to these giants. Maybe I have partners with AWS, but knowing that I have to go through third parties through PayPal is just frustrating. Like, what exactly could we do? Like, for you working for all these like organizations, like, I mean, what exactly are we getting wrong in terms of this payment system?
I think the big thing that we're getting wrong right now is we're looking at those companies and asking the question of, how do we become that company?
Mm-hmm.
But when I say we need to apply the African flavor, what I mean is we need to figure out how to build that company with an African mindset. Mm-hmm. Because if you're building a company that works for people who live in North America or people who live in Europe, Africans have a very different lifestyle. We have different ways to communicate. If you're trying to build a tool that doesn't work for people here, it's not going to get that mass adoption. And if it doesn't get mass adoption, it's not going to work here. And I think that's the number one thing that a lot of people are feeling, and also why you'll hear big companies coming into Africa. And I also love how every announcement is always, Facebook has come to Africa. It's like, no, Facebook has come to one country in Africa. Like, we are, a lot more than just one country.
Right.
And then Facebook will try to launch a product here. And unless they have local Africans from any of those specific countries who understand the market and understand the technology, helping and contributing to business, the platforms don't work. Like, they launched, I think a couple of months ago, they launched like the Facebook Pay, either through WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, where you can, but that's still based on credit cards. And in Kenya, not a lot of people use credit cards. It's M-Pesa all the way.
Yeah, right.
So
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently, I'm very passionate about this.
yeah. I mean, you've just talked about the M-Pesa model, obviously, because I mean, mobile money is still catching pace, right? I mean, when I was in Ghana, I saw the moment I walked out of my hotel room, and this lady was just like, mobile money. But then you come to other countries across Africa, there is a whole lot of, lack of adoption, right? And we have the opportunity to break the norms. But we have some guys here that are actually into fintech, like Boubacar. I'm sure he's going to give you a suggestion about that. But the reason why the topic is so relevant, because, I'm just going to give you a quote now from Accenture that I actually saw yesterday. And this is actually what they say. They were like, digital experience, like COVID-19 has actually transformed the role and importance of digital experience in people's life. Businesses need more agile engagement strategies now and in the future if they want to thrive. So how actually do you agree with this idea, of agility being used for the transformation of these businesses?
Yeah, I think agility in the context of you need to be able to adapt very quickly.
Right.
I think that's so important because it's one of the reasons that like the agile Scrum process has become really popular in the tech industry.
Right.
You need to build something like a quick prototype, see
Right.
how your customers and users are interacting with it, get that early feedback, figure out what's working, what isn't, and then in the next week you need to have another version out.
Right.
Even the next day is even better.
Right.
And so that's what I'm currently trying to do with Talent.
Okay, awesome. And then again, like in terms of, using, I can see Buttonberry actually looking at my screen. Hi, bro. I'm sure you have some exciting questions to actually ask us later. But, when you talk about rebuilding, obviously, using technology to rebuild, our enterprises, one of the things that we would also want to like forego is also to continue with the planning for these businesses. Do we really have specific technologies that needs to be adapted in terms of either post-crisis or before? Because you've built longer, you've seen some of the, the stuff that you've been able to incorporate for business. But what is it like for NGOs and small businesses from Africa? Like, do they have to incorporate a specific set of like technology, or do they have to use a certain guideline? That they can use to build their business. I mean, I'll give you an example of a coffee shop that I opened in person, right? I mean, I was having customers that are actually coming in to buy, but now because of the crisis that we're going through, I can't get hold of my customers. So is there any specific methodology that actually businesses need to be able to adapt, so they can rebuild their businesses as well?
Yeah. So the first thing just trying to figure out who's okay. The first thing that I want to highlight is every country in Africa has a very different relationship with technology, right, and the way that their business runs as well. So like you can't take like let's say South Africa and compare it to Gambia and compare it to Kenya and compare it to like the DRC. Right. It's just the way that businesses operate in those countries is different, and because they're different, you can't apply a blanket solution saying, like if you use this stack or like I think like mobile money is crazy popular in Kenya. Like it works everywhere here. Like even to tip a busboy or something like that, you use M-Pesa. But that adoption hasn't happened all over Africa. It hasn't happened in South Africa. Right. So I think that's one of the first things is like, one of the reasons solving or building tech for Africa isn't really as easy as people think, because you're dealing with 50-something different cultures. As for the stack and tools that we can use, I think there's so many incredible tools that exist today that make it significantly easier to launch a company today than it was even 5 years ago. And by that I mean, and I'm not just doing this because AWS is a sponsor, but AWS has this really cool set of tools called, I'm blanking on the name, but they basically make it really easy to interact with all of their tools. So if you want to create a database, if you want to create an S3 bucket, if you want to create Cognito, and Cognito is an authentication system, so users can register for accounts and sign in. It makes it really, really easy because it does it all automatically for you. And AWS, it's a free service that AWS provides. Similarly, depending on the type of tool or product you want to build, there are so many code solutions that exist today that mean you can build an entire website for $25 a month.
Oh, wow.
And it'll take you maybe 20 minutes to set up.
Okay, so is that accessible to most of our small business from Gambia? Is that like an opportunity for them? Like, how can we access that? Oh, probably you can build it for them, right? I'll tie you to that.
So
we can have a specific program for the entrepreneurs that are actually in my community, so that we can have. I mean, any way that we can help them. That's why we're hosting these events, right? To give them an opportunity to actually solve some of their problems. So if this is something that you really think it's doable, I mean, it's a program that we can work on immediately after this call, and just get access to it. I don't know if that's something that's possible, right? I'm sure all the
Yeah.
participants will want that opportunity. $25 is not like, it's just like $1,000 here or whatever in Gambia. So.
It's nothing. If you consider like so these tools that I'm talking about, they obviously
Right.
don't work for every solution. I can't use them
Okay.
for Tonga. Tonga cares about privacy and security, and these tools don't offer that by default.
Okay.
But what these tools do allow you to do is, if you want to build Airbnb, they have templates where you can set up Airbnb
Right.
in your home in literally under 20 minutes. You can have a very basic version set up, and from
Oh,
there
wow.
you can build on top.
Oh, wow.
And that costs you $25 a month to use the tool that they're using. And then as you grow, you might need to pay a little bit more and more. But if you're growing, it means you're getting payments, you're getting customers, you're getting money in. So paying a little bit extra for hosting is fine. And just as a quick example, last week, someone I know wanted to set up Airbnb for meeting spaces. So all of the like the hotels who have conference spaces,
Right.
who that are just not being used right now. She wanted to set up an Airbnb type product for that.
Right.
So it's easy for you to find spaces.
Okay.
I didn't have time that day, but I mentioned a few different products to her, and within one day, and she's not a technical person, she's never built websites in her life before.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
And she got a basic version up and running with pretty much no help from me.
Oh, okay.
So these tools, you don't have to be a technological person. You don't have to know how to code. You can still launch amazing products. And then once you start making, the equivalent of like $2,000 a month, let's say, that's when you can go and start looking at hiring someone to join your team, to develop it, to convert it from this no-code platform into something that works a little better.
Oh, wow, awesome. So can we organize a workshop on that after this? I'm sure we can work on that. So if you can get through my network, I mean, I want to see them go global. So obviously, that's something that I'm really passionate about. I've already committed some of my past speakers. Yamu Cham was here, and I told her that she's going to draw a business continuity plan, and she's working on it. So I want all of these attendees to actually get access to these tools, because now it's more about understanding some of the things that actually happen in the global world. So now, a quick thing also on the Accenture report, right?
Sorry, just before you jump on,
right.
I just shared a couple of names in the chat for anyone who's interested.
Okay.
So Airtable is great for like literally building your database. It's like an Excel spreadsheet, but
awesome.
It's got a lot of features.
Awesome.
And then Bubble.io, Stacker, and Pori are all no-code tools where you can connect to Airtable. So you can build your website on Bubble.io, and it uses the Airtable database. And then Zapier is a tool where you can say, hey, if a new user signs up for an account, then send a zap where an email gets sent to them. So it's like that's your basic stack right there. And I'm happy to walk some people through it, but like honestly, you can do this without me.
But anyway, I'm gonna need your expertise. This is so much inspiring, and I'm actually excited. It was really amazing to actually have you. And then I'm just gonna jump back to the Accenture report that I was reading yesterday night, and and there's something about like here that they actually talk about. Then they were actually doing this economic outlook of COVID, right? That they actually posted. And he is actually where they put in their focus, right? I was trying to agree with them, but at some point I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it to Aashni to actually give me her feedback on it. And this is what they say. When you look at economic outlooks of COVID, it looks like some technology became more relevant than the other. I'm like, okay, what do they mean by that? And it was like, what would you say? So what would you say is the best adaptation on this? Like, do you really agree with them? Like, do we really have to really focus on specific relevant technology? And it's quite deep, right? But someone that's building all these tools and sharing it with NGOs and the less privileged in actual Africa. So is this a myth, or is this something that really is real? Like, what's your perspective about this? It's quite deep. Yeah. Right.
That's a great question. So I think if you look at the outcome, or if you look at the impact that COVID has had on certain technologies, like certain companies,
right?
I'm thinking of Zoom right now. I'm thinking of Amazon. I'm thinking of Uber Eats, not Uber, but Uber Eats.
Right.
And then also, what was the other one? I'm forgetting the other one's name right now. But they basically give you this option of like, they have let people stay connected and they have let people survive even though we're in lockdown, because with Amazon, you can get everything delivered to your home. Shopify is the other one, where with Shopify, for the millions of people who've lost their jobs, they're now able to try and make additional income or passive income by setting up a Shopify store. And so that's why certain technologies have become vital, absolutely vital for today. Other technology has unfortunately failed as a result, like, oh, I'm forgetting the name of this company, but they're basically a company to help you like order and eat at restaurants, like book tables at restaurants. And in COVID times, no one is going to restaurants, at least like for the first couple of months. And so that company unfortunately went under. And so it's this sort of ebb and flow of, you have really exciting, really interesting opportunities at any moment in life, and they're constantly changing, right? So like right now, travel is dead in the water. No one is building much.
I can't even go to Kenya, and I already got myself set up. It was just a shame.
I know, we were talking about that.
Yeah.
And honestly, like with Taonga, my first instinct was to build it as a travel-related app, but that's not the smart thing to do now. And
Right. Oh, okay.
what product had we previously built, and what does the economy need right now, right? So like for that restaurant company, if they were able to find a way to pivot, they would have been able to survive, right? So instead of saying, hey, if you book with us, you can, so their original model is like, you can use our tool to book tables at a restaurant. Now, if no one's going into restaurants, maybe you can use our tool to order food from a restaurant, then you can go and pick it up and things like that. And that's why Amazon has done phenomenal right now.
Right.
That's why Zoom, I think, recently bought Keybase because they needed to increase encryption and security, where if, I don't know if you guys remember this, but 6 months ago, anyone hosting a Zoom call could get what people call Zoom bombed.
Trust
and it's
me.
because they didn't have great security features implemented.
Yeah, actually, that's why Startup Grind actually did a lot of, encryption from my end in terms of our past events. They were using like second-party authentication, because if you use the open link, you might be a victim of the Zoom bomb. So yeah, and then a quick swift on actually the dilemma of smart things. And there's actually this notion of product ownership that's actually radically changing, right? And then when people buy products, obviously, they're in many cases no longer purchasing physical finished items, but conduits for evolving experience. I think more of like what it's trying to say is like more of the landscape is now shifting into user interface and, everything online. So is this the shift for rebuilding the business? Is like, what's the how for this kind of notion in terms of evolving experience on this user interface?
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting question. I think the harm, from at least my personal view of the harm, we're reducing the amount of time people are going to interact with each other face to face, right? Like with Amazon delivering stuff to your home, you're no longer going to a store and interacting with people at a store, for example.
Right.
And the unfortunate side effect of that is stores are going to start closing. In fact, if you look at the number of stores that have already closed this year alone, it's insane, and restaurants.
Right.
And the people who were previously hired at those companies, they've lost out on income. They don't have the skills they need to shift into the new world.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons that I'm really excited about no-code tools, because anyone can build an app or a website now with those no-code tools. But it's that education around like, hey, this is an option, which a lot of people don't have. And that's always been the sort of struggle between like, let's move fast with technology, but also let's not forget the other people who are getting left behind. Right. And my personal view of this, and I've had this view for a while, is the African continent has always been described as like, it's dark. We are not as far along with technology as other countries are. Right. And yes, that's completely true. We don't have the same tools that other countries, my best examples are just North American ones, have when it comes to technology. But I think the thing that we have is the ability to skip or frog leap over some of the early mistakes that they made when they were launching these products. And so we can be smarter, more efficient, and design better products that aren't going to leave our citizens in the dark. And what I mean by that is, the reason M-Pesa works is everyone can use M-Pesa. If you have you don't have to have a smartphone for it.
Right.
But a tool like Cash App, which is what I used to work at Square, that won't work in Kenya because not everyone here has a smartphone. And so it's trying to understand how does our country work, and how are we going to build things where we can build a better tomorrow for the entire country, not just the 10 people who own this company, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to go back. I mean, previously when we started this conversation, we were actually talking about how this payment issues on, I mean, we're actually in Kenya. So, I mean, Gambia, we're actually picking up slowly. The likes of Bubakar are building amazing platforms where, you can convert the currencies. So I just wanted to hear your version of that model that's possible for these small businesses that are emerging from these least developed countries. Like, is there any specific stuff that they can take into consideration when they're looking at cross-border entries for other countries? Like, because I mean, some people convert this currency. I don't know how they do those codes or what kind of stuff that they use, but it's actually fascinating to learn from you. Like, I mean, with all these issues with pay stuff for small businesses, like what exactly could we like? I mean, a quick turnaround for the small business. Like, is there any solution like before we wrap it up? Like, stuff like that.
Sorry, I think I missed.
Okay, you lost me. Okay, so I mean, we've actually spoke about the payment solutions actually in Kenya, like where you can actually, well, there's a myth surrounding a lot of the issues in terms of payment, which is actually also the same issue in terms of Gambia and other countries, like when you want to do cross-border, and there are some young guys like Bubakar, who is actually on the call, actually, I mean, building solutions where we can work around this payment solution. So I just wanted to hear your version about it. Is there any specific strategy that can be used from your experience to really get across these issues, like before we go for the Q&A?
That's I honestly don't know. I haven't analyzed the space too much, and I think this is one of those things where, for us to really be able to do that, we need governments to stop putting stupid blockers in place. And when I say stupid blockers,
I like the way
Kenya
you put it. Okay.
Kenya is currently implementing a tax on digital products. Like that's a huge issue for anyone who's trying to build tech in Kenya. And and instead, like, we need to work with governments, we need to work with banks to start unblocking some of those things to make it easier for us to wire around the country. I think, and this is not a thing I know a lot about, but I think blockchain and Bitcoin, Ethereum, like those cryptocurrencies, they have the ability of creating tools or creating ways for us to send money around and turn it into a global digital currency, where it's not just, can you send me money? So can you send someone from Gambia send money to someone in Kenya? But rather, can someone from Gambia send someone in Korea money? Whatever that looks like. And so I think the fintech companies that I know of in North America, Cash App is the one I'm most familiar with. They're starting to work in that space. And I know Cash App was definitely interested in building some tools in that area around like peer-to-peer, like sending Bitcoin from one person to another, and doing cross-border payments, not with Bitcoin yet, but I'm sure it will come at some point. So that's definitely an area that's really interesting. I unfortunately don't know more about the Bitcoin space to comment more.
Right.
But I think that is probably the best option at this point.
Unless
governments get.
Wow, that's really awesome. I can't get enough of this conversation. So I'm just going to open it up because we actually started a bit late, but we don't want to keep people. I'm actually not a big fan of longer events, so we're just gonna like allow people to actually like just type in the chat if you want to say something to Aashni. If you have any questions about either, an upcoming stuff that you're actually working on that you need advice from Aashni. And then we'll be able to get you in, right? So just make it brief and concise when you want to ask a question so that we can wrap up quickly. So is there anybody that wants to jump in?
And I'm just going to drop my newsletter and my Twitter. If you ever want to get in touch with me, feel free to tweet me. or you'll find my email address on the website. I promise I will reply. It might take a day or two, but I will reply.
I know. It happens a lot. But yeah, so since we don't have, a lot of, Matombari, I'm actually looking at you. I don't know what you're doing out there. He's actually been a regular of Startup Grind, attending the events. And, he was pretty much excited the last time. I was actually looking forward to hear any insight. Okay, Farmadi wants to say something. So I'm just going to unmute you quickly. And then you can ask your question. Farmadi is also from Gambia, who is actually working on real estate. He's a young guy, really ambitious. Yeah. So if you can just go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. How are you all doing? I'm doing how are you? Actually, I've been away lately, so I just came in.
Okay, your video is not that clear, Farmadi. We can't hear you clearly, so maybe.
Do you want to type your question in the chat?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you can type it too if it's not that long, right? If it's not a long question, if it's short, you can actually type it. Right?
While we wait for your question, I will say one thing I want to challenge everyone on this call to try and do. I personally am on a mission to build a better tomorrow, and what I mean by that is I want to take every tool that I have in my arsenal to try and build solutions that are going to make Kenya better, make Africa better, make the world better. And so that's, my goal with Tonga is to improve privacy for everyone. My goal with Hype Docs is to make everyone, especially like underrepresented minorities in North America or in any industries, not just North America, that's just my experience, to not feel imposter syndrome. Where it's something I felt. It's something that I've had to deal with at my past jobs of, having a boss that doesn't think I'm capable of doing anything because I'm a woman of color. Yeah. And I want to those are some of my missions. And as you start working on your own companies and you start building more things, just take a minute and ask yourself why and how can you build whatever you want to building in a way that's going to make it vastly better for everyone around the world or whoever your target audience is.
Okay, all right. So that's really amazing. So I'm sure we will try to incorporate some of the stuff that you do to really help some of the businesses that are actually here. I'm actually passionate about that side because we need a lot of mentorship and help, especially some of these businesses that really want to elevate. I feel like Africa has it all. And for some of us that are really on that mission to really improve the landscape, I think it's important that we're spending most of our time to really connect and get the best out of what the continent should really give out. So we will try to open up the space. I'm sure this will not be the last time we have you, but obviously we'll try to open up more opportunities, especially if we can integrate Tonga and some of the stuff that you're doing to, especially the Gambian context, right? To help most of the small businesses that are from here to really incorporate some of their problems. So expect an email from me, and we'll try to get most of the small business. And I'm sure you'll be willing to help. I can see Barry, Mr. Barry here as well, Famadi, Fatuma Njie, who's also an amazing.
Aisha messaged me. She has a question. If you could unmute.
Yeah, and Aisha is amazing. She's actually a friend of mine, doing amazing work across the world. So definitely. Aisha, welcome.
Hi, Aashni, and hi, Modou. Thank you very much for setting up the event. It was very insightful. I learned a lot, so thank you for that. I had a question in terms of partnership when it comes to people in the diaspora. So in my situation, I'm Gambian, but living in Denmark. How do we partner with people who are on the ground to improve the infrastructures, to improve the market, as you were mentioning? What role do we have?
So when you say partnerships or connecting, do you mean like connecting back with people in Gambia while you're in Denmark?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I'm still trying to figure out. I recommend looking for the Gambian version of that, because that's a really great way to just find people who are on the ground here. It obviously doesn't have to be a women-only one. It could just be general people in tech. I just generally find the women in tech ones are more acceptable or more open for women to join sometimes. So that's one way. The other ways I would recommend are there's a few different Slack groups that you could try to join. If you Google like women in tech Slack, that one is a pretty big global one that I'm part of, and there's a bunch of Africans, like there's a couple of Africans related channels in there. And then I think the rest of it is really just, if you can't find that community, start building it, right? And like don't, you know, it doesn't have to be something where you're, you know, hosting like an event every single day, because that you will burn out. But if you could start it off as like maybe just a quick WhatsApp group with like 5 or 10 people that you know that are on the ground, and then they can start adding more and more people. Maybe it turns into a Slack group, because Slack is a little better than WhatsApp once you're a bigger group. Or Facebook, wherever you find the people you want to connect with are. If you can't find an existing group, then just form it. And it's honestly not a lot of work. And ideally, after you've got like 30, 40 people on it, some other people will step up and help manage the group, so you don't have to do it day to day.
Okay. Awesome, Aisha. She's actually, you know, has a lot of stuff that she wants to do for Gambia. Obviously, probably she'll be, I mean, helping us on the other session that we'll be hosting. And then Batombari from River State, our brother from Nigeria. This is quite informative and enriching. I joined from Port Harcourt. We'll definitely have you as a speaker very soon, so watch out. And then, you know, and then we have a, you know, quite an interesting question from Karajan, who's actually a brother, you know, to us in Gambia, part of our network. And he actually has a question for you, Aashni. It's actually going to be our last question before we wrap up. We have a product, which is a blood donor app, right? Which is done and up and running. However, we approach Red Cross. Red Cross, I'm sure you know Red Cross, like globally, right? For them to use it. And his question is actually, how can we raise for funds in terms of making a public domain? Like, I'm sure that's a bit deeper. I'm sure you understand what he actually meant by a public domain. So I'm not sure if you understand his question, Aashni.
So are you asking how can you raise money to host this blog online?
Probably,
so whether
yeah.
It's like the
Yeah.
So my answer to that is, it's not very expensive to buy a domain and to get the hosting and stuff set up. And I actually, and let me look for the guide for you. I have a guide on my website that I wrote on how to set up your entire website and everything, or a blog for free. The only cost is like the 10 or 12 you have to the domain. So let's look for that link and I can share it with you. And the beauty of that is like you're using these tools that, you know, I mentioned there's a lot of great no-code tools that exist today, but there's also a lot of other just generally really great tools that that allow you to build and launch things really quickly. So the link I just sent you, a very quick highlight of it is you're using a tool called Netlify. Netlify has a free option on there, which I use for all of my websites right now, which lets you host front-end websites. So this is anything that's like JavaScript based. If you're doing something in PHP or Ruby, I don't think they work very well on this. And then what you can do is, you know, buy your domain. It's usually $10 to $20 max, depending on the type of domain. And I use Gatsby to run my personal blog, which is what, like that link I sent you, that's a Gatsby-based website. There's loads of great tutorials on how to get that set up, including the one that I have linked. So that's like, if that's what you're hoping to do, is like setting up this entire blog website, that's one way to do it where you don't actually need any funding. As for getting funding for other projects and things like that you want to launch, whether, you know, I assume some of them are not just put a website together and it doesn't have any other additional costs. I would start looking at grants online. There's a few that go on. If you've heard of YC or Y Combinator, they have a startup school thing which has some grants available. And then there's, sorry, just give me one quick second. Okay. So startup school is one of them. There's a couple of others that are like very African specific that you can go and look for. I, off the top of my head, I don't know any of them, but there is this website called Founder Grants. I think it's foundergrants.org. It might be .com. Some of those look like they're pretty old and haven't been updated, but if you just look for grants, that's great. The other option is to actually go the stereotypical Silicon Valley route of finding an investor and raising funds through them. That's okay. I've had this conversation with a lot of people in the past, but never in a public space like this. That system, in my opinion, that system is designed for a very specific group of people. And that group of people don't look like me, and they don't have the same background that I do. And the system that they've created has made it hard for someone like me, and my assumption is for a lot of you on the call, to actually succeed in that Silicon Valley model. And so don't think that the only way for you to build something like this is to launch your own startup is if you get funding. Funding is not the only way for you to like gain success as a startup. Both of the startups I'm working on right now, I have no funding. I've gotten grants, but I have no funding. So that was a little bit of a long answer. I think the TLDR is you can get fundraising. It's really hard in African countries because there aren't that many investors around. That being said, if you know prominent businesses or like successful business people in your area, you can go and pitch it to them. Just reach out and say, hey, I'm building this. I need X amount of money in order to do Y or to build out these next features. And I will give you, like 5%, 10%, 15% of the equity in the company, which is basically what you're doing with the startup Silicon Valley founders. Yeah.
Wow, quite awesome, man. I can't get enough of this explanation. It's just quite insightful, Aashni. I'm sure we're gonna have another workshop or session about different topics on this, and it just gets better. So we've actually run out of time. So for those of you that still want to connect with Aashni, she's actually posted her links, and please follow her. She's an amazing person, like really worked for most of these companies and have a lot of experience and can help you if you are really an African entrepreneur and wants to learn about some of these technologies that can help you. More reason why we handpick her. It's really not easy when we're doing these events to really get the best of the people that can really help us navigate through our problems. So it's really an amazing stuff. And thank to all of you actually that joined, even though we had to migrate from Bevy due to technical reasons, but thank you so much. You still managed to join us, which is actually amazing. And we're really humbled to have you join this session. And also this session is also recorded, meaning that you can also reference on it when you want to remind yourself on some of the things that Aashni has actually shared. We also uploaded on the Startup Grind local YouTube channel for Banjul, where you can reference it. So thank you so much. Just before we go, I would like to share the AWS video, and then we wrap up. You say bye.
Awesome. I actually need to jump off because my next meeting started already.
Okay.
But it was really great to meet everyone. Please do reach out to me. While I'm split between Kenya and Canada, I really want to see African countries rise up, and I want to see us take over the world because it's our turn now. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you all build. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much. Everyone. Thank you so much, Aashni. Thanks for joining us. Also, right. Okay. So. Yep. Oh, not yet. Right. Okay, but you already have a screenshot there, I guess. The initial one. So it's fine. AWS. Okay, just get a screenshot. Yeah, you got it? Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for joining us, and it was a pleasure having all of you, and wish you all a wonderful weekend, and au revoir. Thank you. Thanks for joining.